So what's going on, guys? Today I thought we would talk about how to make your photos even better than they already are just by using good lighting setups and good exposures. I mean, a lot of this is going to go hand in hand together. And the way that I want to discuss these things is I want to talk about these by showing photo examples in the computer. Now, as we all know, there's two different types of light sources when it comes to photography. There is natural light, which comes from the sun, and then there's artificial light, like I'm using in this room to light this scene. There is no sunlight whatsoever that comes in here. If I turned off all my lights, it would be pitch black, and that's what we would have. So what you have to do is determine how you're going to use different types of lighting to light certain scenes and get desired looks. So I have some different examples here, from natural lights to flashes to kind of a mix of things, and some tips and tricks to avoid or to apply to your photography in order to get that desired look. But without further ado, let's hop in the computer and check it out. Okay, so now that we're inside the computer, let's take a look at some of these different images. So this particular photo here was honestly taken at the worst time of day to be able to take a photo, and that's between the hours of about noon and 2 to 4 o'clock in the afternoon. The reason for that is because the lighting is very high contrast. But you can see here that my histogram looks really nice. So I have a pretty well balanced out histogram between my highlights and shadows. You'll see there are a few peaking spots with the whites. I believe a lot of that has to do with some of these highlights going along here, as well as this particular white top. But the way that I got this photo during that time is there happened to be some overcast and some clouds came by, and that really softened up that light and allowed me to shoot out like this. Whereas the rest of the photos on the shoot, I had to try to find areas where there wasn't direct sunlight, such as in alleyways or in interesting kind of places like this. Now, when you get into a situation like this, what I had to do is I didn't want this background to be just way blown out and completely out of focus. Now, I probably could do some things to try to pull this back and make it look a little more interesting than what it is. I know that doesn't look the best. But what we had to do for this photo was to actually use an off-camera flash with an umbrella to light the subject. Because this area was so dark, we had to have that extra light in there. But we also couldn't shoot out along the street lines because there wasn't really any interesting places, and then the sun was just beaming down and made for this awful mess. So here is a great example. And the way we did this, we had the light source on a light stand with a shoot-through umbrella. Everything was synced wirelessly to my camera, and we held it right about up in this area and just shot straight down at an angle onto our subject. And that's one example of how you can get away from that nasty lighting that could be outside. Now for this image, this isn't really an interesting scene or location. We were just kind of testing some different things, but obviously this image doesn't look good. There's really nothing I could do to this to salvage this image other than to just move locations and shoot somewhere else. Now I needed to shoot in this graveyard, but if you'll notice this tree back here, then we found another one, and we moved the subject there. I didn't have any flashes with me. In fact, it was raining this day, so I wasn't going to bring that kind of equipment. But I did need to get some images that kind of had this diluted look in order to create something like this. And all this is just natural lighting, using what available light I had with me. But in this scene, there's too much contrast. The lighting's just blah. The sun was very overcast that day. But if you just simply move to a different area, a shadowy area, you get a lot more control and flexibility. Now this image was a ton of fun as well. There's a couple of different things going on here. So the primary source of light was from a window straight across from me right over here. And all I did was try to manipulate the curtains and move them around. Now this is kind of more of the BTS photo. This wasn't the final product, but there was also like a small lamp in the room that illuminated just slightly. But I took that, cut it off, changed up the curtains a little bit, and altered my exposure to achieve something like this. It kind of almost looks like there's a spotlight or kind of a moonlight coming in on me, but literally it was the same window that took this particular scene. I just really modified that exposure to get a look that I wanted more. Now, I also did bring down some of the shadow areas and the blacks a little in the original edit to get more closely of a look like this, but that's just showing you how you can use available light, in this case natural light, and manipulate it to create something that is more desirable desirable, because obviously this photo, I would probably never use this for anything, whereas this could potentially become something cool, such as maybe an album cover if I ever decide to do an emo album. So there's that. Now, the last example I want to give today is if you do have to shoot in the worst hours of the day to photograph those really high contrast times, always be sure of this rule. My photo professors used to always tell me to shoot with the sun on my ass, and that's what I've always done. No questions asked, you just stick the sun behind you and then you shoot away. So this is kind of what an image could come out looking like if you shoot with the sun against you. So right now I'm shooting into the sunlight and it looks hideous. If you shoot with the sun behind you, you get an image that looks like this. So now the foreground looks a lot better. The background looks 10 times better. And we could even go in with a crop here and do the same kind of landscape 16:9 crop, and then bam, that is a beautiful image, and all because I decided to shoot with the sun behind me instead of, in this case, in front of me. And here's just one more quick example. You can see the sun's right up here, straight in the camera. It's causing some lens flare, and this image looks hideous, but then when I put the sun behind me and shoot another image, we get something like this. So the things to take away from today is just to play around with things and have fun. You know, this image here used available light, no flashes or anything else. The same deal with this image. In situations like this, you might have to add a flash in to compensate for situations that's going on, or wait for a cloud to pass by, and then you can get something like this. So that's really it. With lighting, that is everything to make a great photograph. Honestly, two photographers, one knowing a ton about lighting and composition, can go out with one that knows nothing and create a powerful image in really bad environments and situations if they know what they're doing. So all you need to do is think about some of these concepts, take it out, apply it, and practice it and see what you can do. But I hope you enjoyed today's video and learned a little something. Be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and as always, be sure to create something new today.